Welcome to our 69th monthly Zoom presentation. We can all be very proud of the amazing library of recordings we are building. It's truly a testament to the diversity of the roadside. I'm Brian Gallagher, the president of the Society for Commercial Archaeology, and proud to be your host for tonight's presentation. Welcome to all our guests and any new people we have with us. We're happy you took the time to watch an SCA presentation. I hope you enjoy the show. And for those watching the recording of this episode of the SCA's monthly presentations who is not a member of the SCA, we earnestly ask you to consider joining. Funding for the various activities of the SCA comes almost exclusively from our membership. Just visit our website at www.sca-roadside.org and follow the links. Now I have the pleasure of introducing this month's presenters. Christine Henry and Preet Morelewicz, longtime members of the SCA, will soon be calling out, "All aboard for a squishing mission." All you penny hoarders, get out your mason jars and piggy banks. The US Mint announced the last penny was struck in November 2025. Now's the time to spread that wealth and put those copper cuties back into circulation so that collectors everywhere can make the most accessible souvenir of all time. Call them what you will: pressed, flattened, smashed, smooshed, squished, or even squashed if you must. These pocket-sized memories are the best use of the now obsolete currency. Join Christine Henry by day, a historic preservation professor, and Pete Morelewicz, a graphic artist, as they discuss the history of squished pennies, their collaborative art project, the Squished Penny Museum, which ran from 1997 to 2007, and the future of squishing. Spoiler alert, if you don't already have a collection, you'll want to start one by the end of this Zoom. Okay, Pete and Christine, if you can share your screen, and let's have your presentation.
All right. Thanks so much, Brian. Good evening, everyone. How are we looking on the image there, Brian?
Looks perfect. Looks great.
All right. Well, thank you all so much for joining us tonight. It's really fantastic to see so many old friends and new friends joining us. Of course, we're going to be sharing our love of pennies, but we also want to thank the SCA because the SCA has been kind of a part of our squishing missions for a while. I found it in the late 1990s, really just doing a basic web search, and I found a website where I knew I had found kindred spirits and people who love road trips. So I'm super excited to share the way that we commemorate our road trips with all of you SCAers out there. Now, many of you may know us as the Squished Penny Museum. This was a project that, as mentioned, was in our house, and we started it in 1997 after a huge cross-country trip where we got lots and lots of pennies. And we invited strangers into our home to see our collections and to squish together.
Yeah. And we became part of people's road trips. And you can see there's an actual testimonial on there. It's the best thing in Washington so far. Got to leave some room in case you find some other things. But it really was about meeting people, about sharing the passion of pennies. I mean, we had a bunch of pennies on display and people would come over and courteously look at them. But it was really about exchanging stories and sort of the love of the road trip. And so we thought that we will take everybody on a road trip and sort of celebrate that camaraderie. Are we ready?
Yeah,
All right.
go on a trip.
So let's buckle up and we're on our way. So we're going to go on a road trip down Penny Lane. We will, like any good road trip, we're going to pick up some hitchhikers, some famous people along the way that contributed to the hobby. We'll definitely take plenty of pit stops. Christine's a professor, so we're going to have to learn some things on this too. And then we'll actually even tell you how a penny can save your life in the event of a tornado. All right.
So even if you're not sure what pennies are, you've definitely seen these at road stops, at, roadside places, at zoos and towers. I mean, you might call them all kinds of things, right? So you might call them squished, you might call them squashed
Yeah, I could call them smooshed,
or rolled,
flat.
elongated.
Elongated is a good one. And elongated is actually the proper term, the numismatic term for squish pennies. And how they're made is a pretty simple machine. So it is you put your penny, which is denoted by the red hand there, and it goes between two steel donuts, essentially. So two rollers, one of which is engraved with a design, and that's what ends up on your penny. Now, it takes a lot of pressure to go through that machine. It takes 22 tons. And that is exerted by the machine. And usually you do it. You can see Christine on the left using that hand crank doing it. Now, when we were trying to describe to kids what exactly 22 tons was, I mean, I don't even get it, but a kid certainly doesn't get it. It's a little
Right.
abstract. So Christine's like, all right, think of the biggest elephants that you can imagine, African bull elephants. If you stack three of them on top of each other, put the penny on the bottom, that is 22 tons per square inch of force.
So that's what you were doing when you were rolling that crank right there. Now, what aren't they? This is really important. So, we're not talking about the pennies that you put on train tracks. We reserve the descriptor squashed for those. Now, you know, lots of people would say to us when we first started this, like, oh, you mean the ones that, when we were kids, we put on railroads. And we would say, no, that's not, they have more art to them. They're more fun, and they kept saying, no, no, you'll love it. Why don't you try it? So in fairness, we did. So we went to this place called Squash Penny Junction, which is actually an antique store right next to a railroad track. And when a train is coming through, they actually announce it in the store like, hey, everybody who's actually not here to shop, but really just to squash pennies, go outside. So we went out there, we put some pennies on the track. We also put some pre-squished ones on the track just to see what happened. And I'll be honest, it just didn't hold up. It wasn't the same, and really, would hundreds of strangers come to your house to look at a whole bunch of those? No. So they are interesting, but really not what squish pennies are.
That's a good overview. All right, so on our trip, like any good road trip, we're going to gear up. Um, we are going to pack our suitcase with a couple of things. We have some M&Ms. Those are not for snacking. Those are for packing. You're going to take your quarters and your pennies and you're going to put them in the tubes of that. And that way you always have your supplies. We always have one in the car. If we go on a vacation and we're flying, we usually take one.
I
TSA
love that.
loves, yeah, when you have tubes of coins in your luggage. You can also pack a map. Pull out your ways of where you want to go, where you think you're gonna get pennies. There are also penny finders online, where you can kind of look up by location and they'll tell you where to find the machines, what's on the machines. We like a little bit more serendipity in the travel style, but if you're a planner, bring that map. Once you get the pennies, you are going to have to put them somewhere. We recommend a penny passport. So they're specifically designed for squish pennies. They hold 36 of them. We tried. They are not valid for international travel, though. They're just for your pennies.
No, they really don't like them at the borders.
And then the last thing you're going to want to pack is a pink pearl eraser. And that's our packing list for our trip.
Now, why in the world do you want the pink pearl eraser? So the images on the left-hand side of the screen are the reason why. So when you squish a penny, sometimes they're kind of dirty before you squish them, right? And they have some shadows on them and you can't see the design. So the pink pearl is really just to take that dirt right off of the raised parts and really show off your newly minted memento. Um, you know, it's it's not required. You don't have to, but it just makes them a
A little special.
yeah.
Yeah. Also, if you're old and you have bad eyes, you can see them a little better. So rolling into a new town, if you're on a road trip and you are looking for squish pennies and you don't have your pre-prepared map, we have some tips on good places to find them. Museums
Yes.
are always good.
Towers, those kind of places that really are just you go to the top so you can see everything else. Those almost always have some form of penny.
They seem to go hand in hand,
Yeah, I
towers and
agree.
pennies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Zoos, the aquarium, also really good. Planetariums,
Mhm.
places like that. Science, they like to get sciencey. That's always a good place for a penny.
Souvenir shops, of course, right? You can buy your t-shirts, your shot glasses, and of course you can squish your pennies.
Tourist traps as well. Kevin Patrick's attraction diversion model comes into to play here big time. So these are the places that are just sucking the tourists in. You're there to see something else, but you really need to find that shot glass, that souvenir spoon, that squish penny. That's where you want to go.
But really, the best places to find them are the surprises, right? That kind of thrill of discovery. Like you walk by a place and you think, they have to have a penny here. They just must. And when they do, it's the best.
Yeah, it exudes it. We've gotten so good at it, we call it copper radar. So we're just helping people tune their own copper radar. But it's not all fun and games when you're searching for pennies.
Indeed. Yes, there are some speed bumps.
Previous to 1982, pennies were made out of mostly copper, so 95% copper. They squished great. The metallurgy is wonderful, interacting with the dies, the metal flow. Halfway through 1982, they went to what we call the stinky zinky.
And the Stinky Zinky is really just mostly zinc with kind of a spray tan of copper, which is fine if you're keeping it as a penny. But once you run it through the machine, you can see in the images we're showing you, all of that zinc just comes to the top, and the copper part kind of just cracks off.
Yeah. Now, given the choice of no penny or stinky zinky, I think we would both say the stinky zinky.
100%.
But in those M&M holders, you're going to want to pack those pre-82 pennies. So yeah, these are the places.
These are some of the places that you can get them. So, of course, Hole in the Rock is really just one of those tourist traps. It was a spectacular place that I can't even say I remember exactly what was there because I got so excited that they had pennies.
You know, I could describe it as it was a hole in a rock.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. Well, and we can remember that because it's on the penny. Otherwise, we would have forgotten, right? Planetariums, of course, we have to have a tower there. So we have one of the Baltimore towers. They had squish pennies, of course, on the top. But maybe one of the best ones is over there on the right-hand side. So we visited Mount Rushmore, but we also visited the infamous Wall Drug. And Wall Drug is one of those places that has, just miles and miles of billboards leading up to it to get you to go there for your free ice water. But really, it's acres and acres of stuff to buy and an even better view, as you can see in that picture of Mount Rushmore, and then a penny to commemorate the fact that you saw the mini Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
It was awesome.
Any place that has live mermaids, you're going to want to go because they're going to have squish pennies. Also, any place that will put mummified remains in the front window. That is, we're batting 1,000 on those.
Yeah, definitely.
And then Erica, we saw you on here. We have your
Hi.
your corner here of world's largest things. So we have the world's largest McDonald's. It doesn't even fit on a penny. It has to go on a quarter. That's how big that McDonald's is. And then the world's largest truck stop in Iowa. For those unfamiliar, Erica's life work is cataloging the world's largest things.
So, also, you want to make sure to places that are educational. As Pete mentioned, I teach for a living, so I go to places like the Museum of Drag Racing, or Natural Bridge Caverns. Both of those are fantastic places to get coins. But there are some hazards out there on the penny road, so we want to tell you about those. Generic designs. So generic designs, you can get them anywhere. They're exactly the same. They're sort of the fillers, right? The most, I guess, prominent ones are the Brontosaurus, which I don't know, but there's a lot of Brontosaurus, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Bron.
lots of dinos on
Whoever
on
knows it,
pennies.
put it in the chat.
And Lord's Prayer.
Okay.
That one's just to test how good your eyesight is. And then My Lucky Penny, which, is an obvious one, but can be exactly the same everywhere. Or there's kind of a hybrid generic. And so that's what we've got here. You have My Lucky Penny, but just so that you remember exactly where you got your luck this time, they put Cleveland, Ohio on it, or Pikes Peak.
Yes. Cleveland, great place to get lucky. I think that's their slogan.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So how did we arrive here, where we are in Pennyland? Pennies have a long history.
Probably longer than you think.
So we have a quiz for you. Which came first? All right. Which was introduced first? Juicy fruit gum, the Ferris wheel, or the squish penny? So in your mind, we're going to think, Christine, what do you think?
Well, I mean, we are talking about squish pennies, so I'm going to say squish pennies.
Okay, I'm going to say the Ferris wheel.
All right. Well, and my answer would be, no, you're wrong.
I'd say I'm right. I'd say you're wrong.
Right, because they were all invented at the same time.
So the Chicago 1893 1893 World's Fair in Chicago introduced the squish penny. So we have the OG squisher. This is Charles F. Dapper Dam, who was the very first one.
And he is the one credited with inventing this idea. So he's a jeweler, and jewelers have these things called jeweler mills where they actually run wire through two rollers, just like we showed you, to make it thinner and thinner to make jewelry out of it. So he got this great idea. Why not put entire coins through it, and then we can give designs? So he did this, but you can see that this is one of those original pennies from the 1894 World's Fair. And there were only 4 designs, and they're all kind of like this. There's not a lot of decoration. There's not a lot of, we're not capturing the fair. There's no Ferris wheel on that.
Right.
But it's pretty cool. And unlike the ones that we do now, Mr. Dam was there to squish them for you personally. So it was he who is making your souvenir of the fair.
Right. These were all attended machines at these fairs. And really for the early years of the pennies, there was always somebody cranking it out for you. So they were always at events where they knew there would be a lot of people, because if you're going to pay someone to stand there, you're going to want a big crowd. So things like bridge openings, dam openings, the Pan Am Expo in Buffalo also had a lot of pennies. And just looking at like the details in this, especially just compared to the 1893 one,
yeah.
You can see there is definitely like a jeweler's art form going in these. And we tried to blow them up big so that you could see the details. But the carving on these is wonderful. And that was sort of the kind of the lifespan of early pennies was being at places where people were. The pennies followed the people. So whether it was a bowling championship, the Olympics in LA, and then that example on the right, again, from the 1901 Pan Am Expo, actually says rolled at the Pan Am Expo right across the top of that, which if you think about souvenirs from places, they're usually not made on site. If you go somewhere and you buy like a in this era, like a silk scarf,
Right.
Or a lithograph, it wasn't made at the site of the fair. But these souvenirs were. So I think they really had a special place, and they were really creating a new type of souvenir.
Now, as we mentioned, squish pennies have always been mainstays at World's Fairs. And you can see this picture of a squisher, Bob Dow, and he's squishing at the 1934 Century of Progress Fair in Chicago. And really, what's more progressive than mutilating your money to make a new memory? I mean, kind of a tough way to make a buck, but pretty excellent, right? Um, Now, when Bob was squishing it for you, it actually cost $2.40 in today's money. 10 cents, but that was a lot. So, they were kind of all over these type of events, and you can see that we also have one from the World's Fair in St. Louis in 1904, and that's a particular favorite of mine. Not necessarily for the penny, but for all the other cool things that happen in St. Louis. So, iced tea, cotton candy, and the ice cream cone were all introduced at the St. Louis fair. So I'm really glad that I didn't go because I would have to have chosen between all of those awesome things to eat and squish pennies, and I probably would have gone hungry.
Yeah, you would have chosen the pennies.
Yeah, totally.
Definitely.
And then down below, we also have one from the 1967 Expo in Montreal. And you can see, they keep up with the times in terms of their artistic design and their flair. They really speak of when these things are happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And that 34 World's Fair in Chicago really was near the height of squish pennydom. Peak squish, we'll call it. We did have a Great Depression, but it really didn't affect the squish penny souvenir. In fact, being on the cheaper end of it, it really wasn't impacted. You can see people made jewelry out of these. So that is a plated penny from the 33 World's Fair on the left that was made into a bracelet. From that fair, there were 112 different designs. Yeah, crazy. The New York World's Fair, half a decade later, had 42 different designs. And that's the Trialon in Paris Fair. There were several designs of that. Talk about spending all your money. Like,
Yeah.
if there's 112 designs, I would go broke. But by the time the New York World's Fair closed, the world was in turmoil. The U.S. was on the precipice of war. And so this was really peak squish as we take a little detour into World War II.
So, as we go to World War II, copper, like most other metals, was more precious and was used for all kinds of other things. And copper specifically was used for lots of things during the war effort. So even pennies kind of had a little bit of a makeover. So in 1943, pennies were made out of steel. And I will tell you that trying to squish a steel penny in steel rollers doesn't go so well. So there really weren't a lot of squish pennies during World War II. So our penny was doing its duty elsewhere.
Yeah, kind of took a hiatus. Speaking of hiatus, what about a rest stop?
Oh, is anybody out there ready for a rest stop? I know I am.
All right. So we are going to look at some terminology. We're going to start with the anatomy of the penny and sort of, what we've been looking at and what we're going to look at.
And what you will have in your pockets.
Right. Yes. So every penny, in order to get introduced into those rollers, there needs to be an incision in the rollers that grabs the penny. This is sometimes called a grab bar. Sometimes it's called a starter groove or a catch notch, but that is what's going to draw your penny in. And there's usually a border around pennies. On the right-hand side, you can see there's several kinds of borders. I think we have seen examples of all of those so far. Especially that denticle is really like the hallmarks of the old ones. There's not a lot of moderns. Most of the ones you'll find today are the dotted border or the wire border. The center part, that's kind of the field. That's where all the action happens. But one thing I do want to point out is that roller's identification. So on your pennies that you get, there is probably one or more initials on it. And this can be from the artist, from the engraver, or from the roller. So the person who designed the penny, the person who actually did the engraving, or the person who is rolling the penny for you. So this example says HOE, House of Elongateds, a very memorable
Indeed.
abbreviation. But if you pull out the pennies that you have in your squish pennies, you will probably find some marks on there.
All right, there's a little bit more terminology that we want to make sure you know. So, you can see that the front, we can't just call it the front. We have to call it the obverse, right? And then the back is the reverse, surprisingly. And you can see the reverse on this particular penny looks like it's still kind of raised. So you can actually treat them with a couple of things before you run them through the squisher, and it will keep a little bit of that design. But most of the time, when you run it through the squisher, you will have this kind of shadow stretched out of whatever was on the other side, and it's just dirt. Which, you can keep, or you can use that pink pearl eraser and get rid of it.
Yeah.
Now, on the other side, you can see that there's actually a penny that has something on both sides. So up above, it's that Pan Am Expo again, and it has that wire border with that really detailed buffalo bison. Very cool. And then down below, we have ads. So this is called a mule, and they're not as common because it's actually quite hard to keep those two rolls aligned so that they always put it in the same exact place. And you can probably see that a little bit in this one, but it's kind of amazing. So they haven't been around for a decade yet, and already they've become advertising.
Yeah. And you're giving your coin to the roller. Then you're paying the roller for the privilege of them rolling your coin.
Right.
And then you're getting advertised to on the back.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's pretty amazing.
so post World War II, the pennies kind of went underground,
A little bit, yeah,
meaning
yeah.
that they weren't at big public events. They weren't really in retail locations. They were really in people's basements. So literally underground. Or the garages. They were usually hand cranked. There was a legion of a few dozen rollers
Mhm.
who traded amongst themselves, who did commissions for people, and they still used hand rollers. They may have electrified their rig,
Right.
but basically that guy on the left is how they were doing it.
Yeah. And, I mean, these were really commemorating very kind of small stakes kinds of things, right? So, a mailman's Merry Christmas for his route, which I think is pretty
We
excellent.
have to talk to Vince. We
Yeah.
need we need him to hand those out.
Yeah. Yeah. Our mail carrier needs some of these. But up above it was somebody's wedding anniversary. And then on the lower right is actually, I think, one of the ones that we both love a lot because it is for Walt and Madge Morgan. Now, they won the lottery. So, what would you do if you won the lottery? Of course, you would get a custom squish penny and give it to people to tell them that you won the lottery.
Yeah, you have $25 million they won.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
they could squish a lot of pennies with that.
And then on the bottom, on the right-hand side of that penny, you can actually see there's a little more writing, the CMR. That is your roller's initials on there. You putting that terminology to work.
Yeah.
So during this period, there was a couple of folks who were really instrumental in keeping both the hobby alive and relevant, and also looking back and cataloging, categorizing what had come before. So Dottie Dow is on the left-hand side. You may remember her brother-in-law, Bob Dow. He was the one at the 33, 34 World's Fair doing that squishing. Yeah, that was her brother-in-law. So she took all of her, that was her first penny. She was 9 years old at that fair and that got her first penny then. And it basically became an obsession. And can you imagine becoming obsessed with something like squish pennies?
No.
Me neither. So she literally wrote the book on the elongated collector on pennies. And that came out in 1965. And she really kind of made sense of the history of pennies. And then Lee Martin teamed up with Dottie Dow for this next volume, which is sort of like the seminal volume on old squish pennies. So anything from 1893 through about 1960. And that's yesterday's elongateds. So also during this time, because this wasn't really a commercial venture per se, people could really put kind of whatever they wanted to. I don't know why we have a mail theme going, but we have zip code here.
Yes.
We'll give that to the mailman.
Yeah.
Streaking was huge. You can ask my parents about that. They're on here. You can see them in the chat. Nixon's resignation. I first learned about it on a Squish Penny. That was and then of course any kind of recreational things you
Yeah.
can combine with
Right.
your hobbies as well.
Right. Well, so after we have all of these folks who are really just doing it for the love of pennies and for trading with one another and kind of these small things, people start to get the idea that maybe it's not just their friends who would like these. Maybe there's a way to make some money out of this. So
Yeah.
enter the entrepreneurs. The entrepreneurs are doing them in a couple of different ways. So you can see Mr. Lee Martin again on the left-hand side, and he has a mail order. So you can see actually pretty clearly, I think you can see the streaking fad one, right? So if you wanted those, you could right away and he would send them to you in the mail. But I think Angelo Rosado, who's the one on the right, is really the one who's responsible for our ability to squish pennies. So that's Angelo with his rig that he has figured out how to put into a box, basically. And by putting it in a box, he has captured the DIY spirit of squishing. So it's they call it the arcade penny roller, which, I'm not sure how many arcades have that, but I think it's kind of a nice way of saying, like, this is one that's a souvenir maker in a box. You stick it in the corner, you automate it so that somebody gives you the 50 cents and the penny, and then they do all the work, and they've paid for the privilege of making their own souvenir, and you get to keep the money. So these start to pop up everywhere. All kinds of places that road trippers know about, right? All of those great towers and souvenir shops and all kinds of strange places.
Yeah. And to this day, the market is very decentralized. There's a lot of Angelo Rosados
Yeah.
that might have anywhere between 1 and 20 machines in their area. There's not a ton of standardization. It's really a very democratized kind of
Right.
hobby to this day.
Yeah.
And much like democracy, we like to export it too. Because it really is
American.
very American.
I mean, they are accessible, they're portable, and they are fun. But most importantly, they are legal. People don't believe that. But I will tell you that the US legal code, Code 18, Section 331, to be specific, says that you are more than welcome to mutilate and ruin all of your coins, all of your bills, whatever you want, whatever money you want to play with, as long as you don't then try to spend it. So you can't do this for fraudulent purposes, but if you want to make art out of it, well, that's up to you.
Yeah. And if it feels a little naughty.
It does.
Like
Yeah,
it's accessible, it's fun, but it's also you feel a little weird doing it.
Yeah, definitely.
Like semi-wasteful, but you're also creating something out of it.
Yeah.
So, but we aren't the only ones.
Yeah. Other countries may not be as forgiving about squishing their currency as we are, but yes, they are all over the world. Places like Canada.
Yeah. Yeah. When we were up there for the SCA trip. In Canada, you because the Queen's image is on the penny, you cannot deface it. But when you go to use a machine, it will drop a planchet, basically like a slug that looks like a penny, size like a penny, and that is what's going to be squished. You can also use an American penny in some of the machines.
Yeah.
But a lot of places that they don't allow you to deface the currency, they've still found a workaround and they're going to use a planchet.
Now, there are certainly other places that did allow you to squish their currency, and so this machine is one of the very first and kind of an important one for us. So this one was in Berlin, and you can see the Berliner Bear there. So it's a machine that has three different designs, but importantly, before the euro, Germany actually had three small denominational coins that were super close in terms of size but different colors, right? So it was I think it was the 2, 5, and
The 125,
one,
maybe?
2, 5, yeah. 1, 2, 5 Pfennigs. So when we were in Berlin, traveling together, the year before I went there and I only had enough to squish one. So when we went back, I was like, well, now I have all of my coins. So I need one of each coin color, right? So that's 9 coins. And Pete was kind of bored waiting for me to squish. So I gave him some of my coins and was like, you do these, right? Like just this will make it go faster. Well, then I noticed that he should have been done and he kept squishing.
I
So
was hooked. How could you not be hooked?
yeah, it was pretty excellent. So that's how we got into this together. I made sure that he would never not want to squish.
Yeah, that was worthy round the world trip.
Indeed.
Um, but from there to a little closer to home.
We started our museum in our home. Now, it more started not just after that Berlin trip, but after our cross-country road trip that we took in 1996. We took a little over a month. We didn't have a lot of money, and we certainly didn't have a lot of space in our rented car. So we collected pennies everywhere we possibly could. And we came home with just tons of them, or at least it felt like it. And I was pretty excited about them. And so I decided when we came back that I wanted to share them. But not in a penny passport. I said I wanted to create something else. I was going to put them on our mantle and I was going to call it a museum and I was going to invite people over and make them look at them.
That was her term. Make
Make
them
them
look at them.
Yes. So then we did. We handcrafted these exhibits, found ways to kind of put them up on the wall. So you can see Pete's taking a look at our inaugural exhibit, pondering some of the pennies up there. But it was great. And then we opened our doors and strangers came by for over a decade and squished with us.
Yeah, and it would tend to be the fun strangers because though we were in Washington, D.C., we were definitely like off the mall.
Yeah.
So they would have to really kind of find us and seek us out. But what that created was this community because it wasn't just about the pennies, it was also about the thrill of the hunt, the collecting, and just a chance to. I mean, we had people come over that whose families were like didn't believe them that they really liked pennies,
Yeah.
or that there were other people who liked pennies.
Right.
And some people came over and confessed they're like I thought I was alone. I thought I was the only one.
Which I thought was fantastic, right? Because like that meant that there was this whole network of like commercial machines just for that one person, right? So
Yeah.
I mean, there's got to be somebody else who's squishing.
But it did become a community. Even for those who couldn't come to the museum, we had a lot of people who would donate to us, send in pennies. We had a zine that we wrote about a lot of the kind of squishing stories and had people write for us. We wrote about one trip to Branson, Missouri.
Mhm.
That was kind of ill-fated. We have this like little relationship with the Osmonds. They don't know this. But so yeah, I'll tell the first one. So the Osmonds, so when Donnie and Marie had a daytime talk show, they did a segment on small museums and they asked us to send in pennies because they were going to feature small museums. And they called us weird.
Yeah.
Donnie and Marie Osmond called us weird. But we're in Branson, Missouri, bygones be bygones. We decided to go to the Osmond Theater to see the Osmonds' third generation hot country review on ice because they had a squish penny machine.
They had to have a squish penny machine, right? I mean, when we saw that on the marquee, we're like, oh yeah, there's one there.
And they did, and the machine was broken. So we wrote about this in one of our squishes, and lo and behold, people wrote in and sent us the pennies. So it was that kind of community. We took the machine out. The upper left one was a community day and really like celebrated. We were just sort of the conduit.
Yeah.
But it was really all of the kind of the interaction, the donors, the people who would send us great pieces of mail.
Oh my gosh. I mean, it became this kind of collaborative art project, right? So people would, write to us and ask for one of our squish pennies or share squish pennies with us and then create these incredible pieces of art to ship them in. They would also send us pictures of other art projects they would make with their own squish pennies. So, decorating belts or shirts or
Sashes or
I mean, just amazing things. So it was really fantastic to learn all of the creativity and to kind of be a part of this ongoing art project.
yeah. Um, do you want to share some of our like behind the scenes, some of our favorite pennies?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
All right. So we're going to do a little deep dive into the archives here.
So these are some of my favorite pennies. And I will be honest, it's really hard to choose favorite pennies, but these are some of my favorites because tonight we're talking about travel and these all relate to travel. So there's the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel penny, which you can see in that lower left. And I love bridges. I'm from Maryland, so that anything Chesapeake Bay, even though that's in Virginia, is really close to my heart.
Probably sprinkle some Old Bay on that penny for you.
Yeah, probably. And then the Washington State Ferry is another one. I think I just loved this idea of putting this really elegant, ship onto a penny. And then the cartoon Duquesne Incline is pretty just excellent. If you haven't been to Pittsburgh, the incline is a funicular, so it goes up the side of a really steep mountain, sort of chugging along the edge, and it's pretty fantastic. But maybe my all-time favorite of all of these travel themed pennies is Truckers, America's Last Cowboy. Yes, I could have gotten it anywhere, but I got it on a road trip. And to me, that was fantastic because certainly that was who we were sharing the road with.
Yeah.
What about
Um,
yours?
I tend to go a little bit different in my passions. I have a lot of disaster pennies. Some are natural disasters. We see Mount St. Helens there. There's the Bangor, Maine, destroyed by fire in 1911. Um, some are man-made, the Hindenburg. So that was definitely during the kind of the times of our lives, like when people were, these weren't really commercial machines. They were in their houses, and they would sell them to like make commemorative issues. So tasteful packaging, of course. But just look at that Zeppelin. Like the detail in
Yeah.
that squish is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've watched a lot of documentaries, and I don't know that I've quite seen that still. So,
No, they
like,
captured a
yeah,
different
yeah,
angle. Yeah.
it's impressive.
So yeah, I definitely like disaster. Speaking of disasters, we promised
Yes.
you that Penny would save your life in the event of a tornado. And this is how we're going to do it. So we have a penny, and on the obverse, remember that term? It says, "What has God wrought? Tornado, forces of nature." And then on the back, it tells you all the ways that you can help yourself, things to avoid, what to do outside, lie flat in a ditch at a right angle, and how to survive a tornado. So my advice is, if there's a tornado, just leave everything, but go find your penny,
Right.
grab that, give it a quick read, and then jump in the ditch,
Absolutely.
and you should be good.
You should probably carry it with you at all
Just in
just in
case.
case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just in case.
So, what is the road ahead for pennies? There's been a lot of talk about the demise of the penny since the mint announced late last year that they weren't making anymore. And honestly, a lot of buzz about the future of squishing because of this. Now, there have been for a while now quarter machines and dime machines.
That's you at the dime
That's
machine.
yes, at the Diamond Mine. We even paid 75 cents for that one. And planchettes, maybe someday we'll have Bitcoin stretchers too. But really, there are 114 billion pennies still in circulation.
Can I just give us a perspective on
Yeah.
what 114
Yeah,
billion?
I would
Okay.
like that.
So do you remember our old friend, the elephant? All right. And you stack three of those, and that was 22 tons. Okay. If you took all of the pennies in circulation and you stacked them up, like you, not end to end, but like you would in like a roll of pennies, it would be 47.5 million elephants standing on each other. That's how many pennies are left. That goes halfway to the moon. I just want to put that in perspective.
So
So,
I think that says that there's plenty left for all of us to
yeah,
squish, right? I
yeah,
mean,
not anytime soon.
yeah, they're not going away. So this is your call to action. Scrounge up all those pennies that you have saved in those jars and in the bowls and in the couch cushions and squish or flatten or stretch or smush those pocket-sized reminders of your time on the road.
Yeah, thanks for going on the road trip with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. We love sharing our love of pennies, and now we can't wait to hear what questions you all have.
Well, thank you so much, Christine and Pete. That that was amazing. Absolutely top-notch presentation. And I wish I had my collection of squished pennies out so I could have been looking through them for the different makers marks and all that sort of stuff as you were talking. But boy, there's a lot to know about pennies. I didn't realize that there's quite so much. Now, there's a bunch of questions and a whole bunch of comments. So, but before we get started, just wanted to let you know I'm Canadian, and we've been without pennies now for God. It's got to be, I think, 5, even 10 years. Was the government decided no more pennies, and so we don't have to worry about squishing because they're not in circulation either. Like they don't exist except in all the millions of piggy banks and mason jars. And I've got a whole mason jar full of them myself. It's crazy. So what I think they've done mostly here is gone to slugs or to planchettes. But I've also heard they're going to the nickels next on the chopping block, and that one might go down as well. So we might be up to 10 cents for these squished coins, and that's starting to get kind of expensive, I think. But anyways, let's go to the questions here now. I'm just going to bring up the chat and go back quite a bit. Let me see. I don't know what there was a whole bunch of great comments at the beginning, but let's get to the first question here. Oh yeah, so one question was, so you use the eraser after you elongate the penny or before? I think you answered that already, but maybe you can answer that one again.
It's really personal preference. You can clean off your pennies before you squish them, or we usually do it afterwards. So it kind of gets a higher contrast, right? So you just use that eraser on the high parts.
Okay. Now, David Peterson asks, what do you do with those squished pennies that come out incomplete or less than perfect? I mean, I think I know what the answer is, but do you have any comment on that one?
Yeah, so that can be caused by a couple of things. Sometimes it is how the machine is calibrated that is not giving enough pressure, and so they're called short rolls. And in that case, you really can't do anything. So if are at a commercial machine, we post up, we put our money in, we do a roll, and it's a short roll, like not all the design is on the penny. We'll try it again one more time.
Yeah.
And if it's short again, then we know it's a machine issue. But we will still keep them. They all are welcome. We give them all the
Yep. Yeah.
So even short rolls are people too, then I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's usually not user error.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Now, this kind of is a good segue into the next question from Christine Pace. And she goes, I wonder how often the impression part gets replaced, because wouldn't it lose detail over time? In other words, the die, I guess.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's hardened steel. So it's good for many, 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 many impressions. But for instance, during the World's Fairs, we know that they were re-engraved retooled between the 2 years of the Chicago World's Fair in 1892-93. So they won't last forever, but they're pretty durable.
Okay, good. Actually, we have somebody watching tonight, a lady by the name of Anne Marie Brogley. I don't, do you know her, that name? She's very knowledgeable about pennies because she answered that question too. I just looking at the
Oh,
comments. She
excellent.
says they do wear out, but they must be remade, but after quite a while. Now, Nancy Stern is asking, did you buy did you buy many squished pennies on eBay, or did you actually purchase some of these ones?
Yeah, so not as many on eBay,
Yeah.
but more from those collectors who kind of kept it alive during the 60s, the 70s, and the 80s. And so we would buy directly from them.
So that's how we got the 1893. We weren't there for that one.
Oh, oh, I was like, I couldn't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad.
Yeah.
Okay, good. But yeah, some of those older ones we would buy right from collectors. There's a great eBay community, very active, lot of stuff on there. If you know if that's what you like.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Now, Jennifer Johnson asks, how do you find out how many squished penny options were available at a long ago event, like let's say a World's Fair in the, New York World's Fair or anything? How do you figure out how many different ones there were?
Yeah, well, thanks to the work of Dottie Dow and Lee Martin, um, they have listed. So this is the Chicago World's Fair of 1933. This is design number 73, 74, 75. So they have photos and descriptions of all of the pennies that they know of.
Okay, so there's books out there about that.
There
Yep.
are books,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
So all right, this is like it's no numismatics or plato all over again, except that this time it's squished.
Yeah,
Now,
so the because we've been talking about nomenclature,
Right.
ectonumia is what you would call this sort of branch of numismatics.
sorry, what? Say it again. What's it called?
Exonumia.
Exonumia. Okay,
Yeah, so
that's
it's
interesting.
like money that you can't spend.
Okay, I see. Now, Gabriel Pons asks, how do we get a squish penny machine? Can you buy them or can you make them?
Well, yeah, I mean, you can buy them from those rollers. There are still people who make them. You know, they make the cabinets and all of that kind of stuff. You can buy ones that were designed for a place that maybe doesn't have them anymore, and you can redesign them. So get new rollers and put them someplace else. So yeah, you can buy them. I think actually we did buy our machine off of eBay, right?
Well, you did, yeah.
Yeah, we drove down to
Georgia.
Georgia to get it. So
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, there's a. I'm not reading out the comments because there's dozens and dozens of comments here. You can read them later after all, but I got to read this one. Ed Ochi says, I was questioning my sanity for signing up and attending a presentation on squished pennies, but I was wrong. This was amazing.
Thank you, Ed. Thank
thank you,
you.
Ben.
Now, Stephanie says, what's the future of these wonderful squish penny machines? I think you kind of answered it, but maybe you could just expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, people are going to find ways to take our money, right? So whether it is updating the base coin to quarters or dimes, both of those machines exist. Accepting credit cards,
Oh,
um,
wow.
yeah, using the planchets. I mean, they are
Yeah.
like when we looked at the price of in the Dottie Dow's brother-in-law was squishing them for 10 cents in 1933. That's $2.40. Like there is a lot of
Hmm.
kind of room, I think, to charge a little more. They are economical, not just in size, but price-wise as
Right.
well.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
think there'll be ways to get our money. I don't think the machines are gonna go anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're right about that. No, actually, that's a good segue into that. I think you answered it already. Shannon Wood says, I haven't squished a penny in a while. Is the going rate still 50 cents plus the penny?
So typically, yes, but I would say less often.
Right. We've definitely seen 75 cents and a dollar more frequently. So yeah, they're charging a little bit more, but still, I mean, it's still better than a t-shirt or a whole bunch of other things,
Oh
right?
yeah,
I
for
mean,
sure.
even if you get all of the designs, which those of you who have squished with us know that, if there's 4 designs, I'm not just choosing one. People used to say like, how do you choose which one? I was like, you don't. You get all of
You
them.
get all of
Yeah.
them
We
right.
meet a lot of people at machines.
Yeah.
Like, especially if you start, like, if the machine's like no one's at it, you go up to it, you start cranking, and other people, oh, I'm kind of interested in that. What's going on there? And then Christine does the old trick of, oh, why don't you help me out? Because she's getting people addicted to it. She still does it.
I still do it and they still walk away happy. So
Yeah.
it works.
I'm with Ed Archie on this. How can a discussion about squished pennies be so unbelievably entertaining and interesting too? It's absolutely fascinating. Now, here's a question here which I really quite understand, but maybe you will. Shelley Morris says, sometimes when I roll a penny, it's rounded. How do I flatten them? I don't know if she means like it's bowed or whether it's round.
Yes, I think she means, yeah, they're not always nice and flat. Sometimes they're kind of scooped. And that's usually when there's too much pressure. So we talked about being under rolled. Those are a little over rolled. If you look at the designs, a lot of times the edges will be inside of the edge of the penny, and you can flatten them out. We've definitely,
Yeah, I would say a sturdy thumb, putting the elongated down and putting your thumb on top of it.
yeah.
It might create not a crease, but like a tiny wrinkle, like it won't straighten out evenly, but it'll fit in the penny passport much better.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good. Now, here's a fascinating comment, which has a question as well from Rebecca O'Sullivan. And she says, first of all, the presentation was great. Says, I'm an archaeologist. I found a squished penny on a project I did in a historic park in Florida. It has FDR on it and reads, Our President and Friend, 1934, a New Deal. So the question is, did politicians at this time have squished pennies at rallies, or could it be related to a WPA event that was held at the park because some of the park features were built as part of the New Deal? Any thoughts?
So we have pennies from Taft in I think 1901. I'm not a
Yeah.
presidential historian. The FDR we have ones of people running for office.
Yeah.
I don't know specifically about that FDR one, whether that was an event or sort of a campaign, someone following along with the campaign. That is a wonderful question.
And I think we could probably figure it out by looking in Lee Martin and Dottie Dow's book. So that's a research
Rebecca,
question.
if you want to email us,
Yeah.
we will look it up for you.
Yeah.
And we would love to see a photo of that. We
Yeah.
have a version of that penny, but I want to see if there's a variation in it.
Or Rebecca, if you want to email through to Christine and Pete, just send your email to me. It's president at sca-roadside.org, and I'll forward it on to them. And if you can send a picture, that would be wonderful, as they asked. Now,
Rebecca, I hope that was the best discovery you've ever made as an archaeologist.
I love Christine Base's comment here. She says that'd be a cool band name, Exonumia. Now, Courtney Kuzemchak says, obviously we'll keep collecting when you do road trips, but is there a historic squished penny that's on your wish list to track down?
Oh, I mean, all of them.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I can't think of one, but
Yeah, I can't think of any. Yeah, there is one of Luna Park in Coney Island that is a little elusive for us. I haven't looked for it in a while, but
yeah.
that would be one.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's so many. There's so many.
Anyone that I didn't know about, that would be the next obsession.
And just as this will be the final comment, unless anybody has any more, the final question. Or actually, Anne-Marie Broccoli says there's a guy named Alex, she spells it M-R-U-K, Mruck, I guess. He sells a small wood device you can use to flatten them, and it's reasonably priced. So
good.
there's people not only selling and making the pennies, but devices to flatten them and accessories, right? You have to have accessories. It's all about the gear with these
Yeah.
hobbies, right? Well, that is just great. Now, I had a question for you too. The publication, the Sentinel, which is a great name. So did you guys put that publication out, or is that part of the wider Squished Penny world?
No, that was our personal produced zine, and it was just us writing stories about where we squished and where we didn't get to squish, where where we missed a machine or that kind of thing. Our adventures. There were word finds and matching things. It was just part of the art. So that was just us. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's really good. I assume there's actually somebody says in the comments you should digitize those and make them available on some website somewhere or some collector's website. I think
Yeah,
that would
that'd
be
be
a great
fun.
idea. All right. Well, we're almost out of time. So I'd like to thank you again, Christine and Pete. That was a great presentation, so entertaining and so interesting too. And I'd like to thank all our viewers for joining us this afternoon and this evening. Now, before we go, I would like to remind everybody about next month when on Wednesday, March the 11th at our usual time, Doug Kirby will regale us with the Roadside America Project, a taxonomy for travel mirth. And I might say most of you probably read his book. He had some co-authors on it called Roadside America. And it's one of the best books I've ever read about the roadside. It's as funny as they come, and it's really good. A bit dated now, but that makes it even more interesting. So join us for a fascinating side trip on the borders of good taste through the state of confusion, where giant statues spar for attention, tourist traps grip with spring-loaded merch jaws, and everybody sends wish you were here postcards to their pals back home. Quirky, oddball, wacky, weird, the fever dream of a nation. Now, SCA members will be receiving the relevant details and registration link for the January talk by email, and others can register through the SCA's website directly. Thank you to everyone for spending some time with us tonight. You can, for those who are not members, you can expect an email shortly inviting you to join the SCA and enjoy all the benefits of membership. And remember that today's presentation will be available probably tomorrow on the SCA's website for anybody and everybody who missed tonight's show and would like to see it. So, Christine and Pete, any final words from the land of squished pennies?
Just to keep squishing on.
Yeah, and thank you everybody for the wonderful comments and wonderful questions. It was great to have so many great people listening to us talk about our obsessions.
Yeah, well, we had 74 people online, which is that's a very high number for these presentations, and there'll be many more. We'll view it as a recording later on. Now, I can't help but noticing you're wearing very fetching hoodies there, which have your names on them, Pete and Christine. That's like you're working at Home Depot or the gas station or something. And what does it say on them?
It says the Squished Penny Museum.
Now, are those
our
available?
staff? Yeah.
Yeah, you said you have to merch up. It's all about the gear, Brian.
Okay, well, with that, I'm going to say good night. Thank you both again. And thank everybody who joined us tonight. And I'll look forward to seeing everybody next month, same time, same place. Good night.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.